All right, 3 minutes down after the hour.
Look who's here on the Curvy Couch with us. We have Eric Trump. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be back.
Good to see you here. What do you make of what the mainstream media is doing? You talking about your dad's immigration plan and his speech and saying that he wants to deport so many people and they're really upset about it. What's the truth here?
Listen, my father wants to protect this country. It's very, very simple. He also wants to preserve the wages of the 20 million people who live in this country. And it's very, very sad. If you look at median income in this country, it hasn't gone up in 15 years. I mean, it hasn't gone up, and yet we have thousands and thousands of people coming across the southern border. They pose a real security risk, and my father wants to take care of the problem. And quite frankly, the people who are in this country who are causing massive problems, he wants to get them out. I mean, he just wants to get them out.
Eric, he seems to be tearing it, saying first we got to get the drug dealers and the gang members, got to get them out, and then we're going to we'll take account, look around, and decide what to do from there. But two things happened over the last 24 hours. Jacob Monti and Alfonso Aguilar, two guys who are members of your Hispanic Council, have said, I don't like the speech, I'm resigning. What's the story there?
Which is actually pretty amazing, considering the speech, it was actually very consistent and has been very, very consistent with his plan. And it was really interesting. I think it took tremendous leadership for him to go down to Mexico and meet with the president. But when you saw the meeting, the president of Mexico even said it was a two-way street. He goes, listen, obviously America has a real problem with tremendous drugs coming across the border. We have tremendous problem with the money coming back into our country, and we have tremendous problem with guns and different weapons coming into our country, which are hurting the cartels. So the president even said it was a two-way street, and I was really proud of my father. I mean, I think they left it in a very, very good way. Then the leftist media obviously spins it, et cetera, but it was clear from both leaders that a border is necessary for the protection of their own country.
Will there be an effort to clarify with these two guys who were advising your dad on Hispanic issues? Will there be an effort to get them in the mix or clarify their position?
I think so. It's very important to us. And if you look at the Hispanic community and Latino community, they've largely been left behind in this country. If you look at the African American community, it's the same thing, right? They've been left behind by this country in so many places, and it's a very, very sad thing. You look at inner cities, right? 60% unemployment, African American youth in inner cities. They've been left behind. This administration is doing nothing to take care of those communities. And the same applies to Hispanics in many instances, and it's very, very sad. And my father wants to bring jobs back into this country. He wants to make this country safe. And that benefits every American, but every legal American. And there's a difference in his mind between legal Americans and illegal Americans.
But especially Americans at the lower end of the income scale. What's so striking to me is the Democratic Party used to be very concerned with things like wages. How much do you make? That's really meaningful to people. Now they're off on global warming. But your dad's economic argument was kind of a traditional, almost Democratic argument.
Sure, no question about it. Listen, we have 100 million people out of the workforce in this country. Wages haven't gone up in this country, as I said before, in 15 years. Think about that. Since Bill Clinton signed NAFTA, right, in 2001, since he signed NAFTA, we've lost 1/3 of all manufacturing jobs in this country. Our jobs are fleeing this country, yet people are coming into the country and taking the very few jobs that we have left. We have to balance that out, and we also have to protect this country because we need to know who's here. I mean, you can't turn on the TV without seeing another ISIS attack, without seeing another, horrible, horrible tragedy. We need to know who's in this country. We need to protect the American people.
So we found out over the last 2 weeks the commingling of the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton in her days at the State Department. This is the FBI. This is Judicial Watch. This is Citizens United, subpoenaing legitimate records. It's not pundit spin. The latest is that the GSA is revealing that Bill Clinton may have used taxpayer dollars to subsidize the setup of a private server for himself.
Nothing surprises me anymore. I mean, it really does. And you see Hugh Aberdeen, you see her connection, obviously, between the foundation, the State Department, the emails going back and forth, and, big donors wanting to go to dinner with, the vice president. And I mean, it's really horrible. It is pay to play on the largest level. And Americans deserve a lot better. I mean, we as people deserve a lot better. These government officials are employees of ours, the American people. We should be doing a great job, meaning government employees should be doing a great job working for us, and they're simply not.
You mentioned Vice President. This is Joe Biden talking about the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Do you think Americans should be concerned at all about the ethics of the Clinton Foundation? Has the Clinton Foundation always been 100% ethical in your view?
Look, I think the Clinton Foundation, like all foundations, has found themselves in a position where things are changing, and I think she's going to change and adjust to the realities of how complicated it's all become.
And is she clearing herself up enough for that? Should the foundation have stopped taking foreign donations
I think you'll see them stop taking phone calls.
So could you interpret that for us?
This is our leadership. I mean, this is our leadership. No, I can't interpret that. I'm not sure if anybody can interpret that. But this is the leadership that we have in this country. I mean, somebody sets up a foundation. They pocket hundreds of millions of dollars. They say they come out of the White House, quote unquote, dead broke. Now they're worth $150 million. And the question I always ask guys is, what product were they selling? You know, if we make a buck, we sold a bottle of wine, or we sold an apartment, or we sold a hotel room, right? What product were they selling to make $150 million?
Favors the government?
Of course, of course. But it's just so sad. Right. People in this country work so hard, and sometimes they're not able to achieve because of the policies that these politicians put in place. And look what they do.
I'm going to offend Joe Biden. He should be offended because there's a Secretary of State working for the President of the United States, was hired to do a job. Instead, she's commingling the foundation with the Secretary of State job. It really has nothing to do with Joe Biden.
Wait, I don't know. You're not being fair. You didn't read Politico yesterday? They said the Clinton Foundation has made massive strides fighting childhood obesity. I mean, to be
I'm just
fair.
saying that that's sarcastic.
Do you know anything about their work on childhood obesity?
I don't. What I know is, Hillary will insult us for making a tie outside the United States because, you literally can't manufacture in this country anymore because of what their policies have done for this country. But yet, just about every dollar that the foundation makes all goes overseas when we have massive problems in our own country. We have massive poverty. We do have obesity problems. We have a lot of problems in this country, right? But instead of fixing the inner cities, instead of fixing the educational system, instead of contributing within the borders of our own country, all that money is going overseas. And I find that very, very ironic.
Yeah, Eric, I wanted to ask you about the forum. There's a forum next week, and your dad kept saying he would participate in the debates as long as the moderator was fair. Well, next week at the forum, it's a military forum, Matt Lauer, it's just been announced, is going to moderate that. What is your dad saying about it? How does he feel?
Listen, I hope Matt will be fair, and we've known Matt for a long time, and been on his show many times. And obviously there's a lot of speculation because of his involvement with the foundation, his knowing Clinton pretty well, and everything else. But I hope he'll be fair. I mean, you see some of the stations over at NBC, MSNBC in particular. I mean, it may as well be a super PAC against Trump. I mean, it's really, really sad to see what's happened to the media on that station. I hope that won't be the case with Matt. I hope he'll be fair. And quite frankly, the best debates have always been the ones where the moderators have sat back and just been neutral and asked a good question, let the candidates respond.
I think he'll do a great job. I think your dad says positive things about him in the past. There's a story today in Politico that among the things happening, a lot of positive things happening for your campaign, but on Monday, evidently you expressed that this report is true, and a little bit upset with the RNC for not doing more to get out in battleground states, and you jettisoned out there to visit with the RNC to say, guys, what's with the delay in the battleground states? Can you tell me if that's true?
And this is, I read that, and I literally shook my head. I mean, the RNC, they are amazing, amazing people. They do an amazing job. I actually went down to Washington, D.C. to check on our hotel. Then I went over to the RNC to, thank 200 great people, however many they have over there for doing such a great job.
So it's erroneous.
Totally. The RNC, they do an amazing job, and they are so committed to us winning, and they're so committed to all Republicans winning. They do a great job.
You're not concerned about the battleground states ground game?
Listen, we ramp up teams and we fight, and we're going to fight very hard. And the newest poll numbers are incredible.
Why do you think that is? Why is your dad doing better in the polls now?
I think he's had an amazing couple weeks. I mean, I think he's had an amazing couple weeks. I always tell him, and I always say that I love the humble Trump because that's the father I know. He's an amazing guy. He has a heart of gold. He's just the greatest father in the world.
Right.
And he'll be an incredible leader to this country. But I think people have seen that softer side. And listen, I think you have Louisiana that's totally underwater, right? And where's Hillary? She's fundraising. Where's Obama? He's playing golf. Where's my father and Mike Pence? They're down in Louisiana. You see the same thing. The president of Mexico invites Hillary and my father down to Mexico. He's on the next plane to go down there. Where is she? She's fundraising. I mean, it's just a very different, leadership quality. And I think people are starting to see that. And my father will do a great job for this nation. He will do an unbelievable job for this nation.
How's your fundraising?
My fundraising?
Yeah.
For St. June?
No, for the Trump for President campaign.
Oh, for that. No, it's great. It's great. Honestly, we're doing so well. We're doing so well. In fact, 2 days ago, the day he gave the immigration speech, we raised $5.2 million in one day. I mean, think about that. $5.2 million in one day from donations that were less than $50. So it's incredible. I mean, the groundswell of support is just tremendous, and it's going so well.
Labor Day plans?
Having fun.
No, that's it?
Try and get away from politics. I'm a civilian this whole process. Remember that, Brian.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
I'm going to try and step back from politics.
It's the last break you're going to have for a while.
It will be. It will be. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much. Great to see you, Eric. Release show. The Clinton Foundation executive, his name is Doug Band, sought diplomatic passports with the help of Hillary Clinton aide Uma Abedin during her time at the State Department. In an email, Abedin replied that she would work on it. A violation of federal law, by the way. The law states a diplomatic passport is issued to a foreign service officer or to having a person having diplomatic status or comparable status because he or she is traveling abroad to carry out diplomatic duties on behalf of the U.S. government. The only problem? Band is not a diplomat. He is just a Clinton friend. More on this. We bring in author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, you have a problem with this revelation?
It's very disturbing. It actually shows that for the Clintons, they look at the government as being an extension of their own feathering of their own nest. And they use the apparatus of government to gain favors for themselves and their friends, to make money for their foundation and for themselves. And, you know, we've seen this kind of corruption in America at the local level before, but I've never heard of a Secretary of State, in a sense, renting out policy, renting out access in the shameless way that the Clintons have now done.
It's unbelievable, and we're just getting these revelations now because these emails were put on an unsecure server, and this investigation has exposed all this linkages, which you have chronicled and told people about before. Another linkage I think is worth bringing up. Former President Bill Clinton using taxpayer money as a former president to subsidize the Clinton Foundation staff and a private server setup. Now, that money's coming to him as a former president, but to use it for this, is that a problem?
Well, let's think about this. The purpose of tax exemption is to encourage people to do charity. If you look closely at the Clinton Foundation, it's not a charity. It's a charity front. It reminds me of the foundation that the Juan and Evita Perón set up in Argentina, which pretended to be to help people, but was really a way to accumulate influence and cash for the Peróns. The Clintons, the same thing. Their foundation is essentially a bribery receptacle for the Clintons. That's what's enabled them to go from $0 to $200 million, and their foundation to take in $3 billion in donations.
So, Dinesh, when he says and all his other supporters say they do great, the Clinton Foundation does great things for a great number of people, you say that's not true?
I think when you look at the Clinton Foundation's own reports, you know, somebody builds a school in Haiti, the Clintons visit the school, and then they list the school as something that they funded. It's almost like they paid for the school. It's not true. So the way that the foundation structures its, quote, giving, it takes symbolic credit for things it never did.
All right, I want to talk about Hillary's America. You are re-releasing it to selected theaters this weekend. Is it because Hillary's back in the news for a lot of the things that you put in that movie?
Well, it's partly just by popular demand, people calling the theaters and saying, hey, we want to see this movie. And so the theaters decided to re-release in 400 theaters this weekend. It's also because the issues in the movie are so timely. Trump is all over them, the whole sordid history of the Democratic Party, the Clinton Foundation and its rackets, it's all there. So it's a way for people to equip themselves as we go into this final stretch of the election year. Please see the movie this weekend.
All right, and to find out more, we go to where to find out if it's playing near me?
The website is Hillary'sAmericaTheMovie.com. Hillary'sAmericaTheMovie.com. You can plug in your zip code. It'll tell you where it's playing.
So you got a lot of stuff coming out and a lot due. Now we do understand, too, Dinesh, they're going to be releasing Hillary Clinton's schedules. They have to reverse themselves as the State Department. So we'll find out who is she meeting with and why. And, of course, that first came out with the AP is disturbing linkage. Dinesh D'Souza, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Yep, let's meet the pint-sized politicians now. A really big kid, 7-year-old Robert and 4-year-old James Tufts. Welcome, brothers. How are you?
Nice to see you.
What made you get into politics, James? Why get into this?
Because my brother made me.
Your brother forced you into it. You're 4 years old, and you've already been mayor. You were the mayor at 3 years old.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was funny.
It was funny. Why was it funny?
Because at the age of 3, you can't be that.
But you did, Robert. What did it take to become mayor? Tell us what happened.
Well, my mom, she said, do you want to be mayor sometime soon? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, let's go to Dorset and make a vote. And I said, okay. And so we went to Dorset and made a vote, and then we did it many more times, and then until the pitch to Dorset, that's when we turned into mayor.
Wow. Now, what is your advice? Give us some political advice.
Well, look people in the eye, shake hands, and no poopy talk.
Right.
That's a good one. No poopy talk. Have you learned that from your brother as mayor? No poopy talk?
How do you guys work well together? Do you guys work well together to keep your town safe?
Yes.
Right. Give
We
us
just rebuilt it.
You rebuilt the town? Bless you. But how did you rebuild it?
We didn't rebuild it. The big, tall guys rebuilt it.
The big guys?
The grown-ups.
So what is a meeting like for you? Do you have a lot of meetings as mayor?
No.
Not a lot. Just how many a year? How many would you say?
Probably like one.
Oh, just one. And do you lead that meeting?
No.
Who leads the meeting?
Most of the time it's town owners.
Oh, okay, that's good. Well, you know, James, you have your plate full. This is the year you start preschool, right? You start preschool on Tuesday. You love pizza and hot dogs. It's hard to have responsibilities and start preschool.
And I like ice cream, too.
You like ice cream,
you
too?
forgot that, Brian. What's your favorite flavor?
Probably rainbow sherbet.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's probably the best ice cream.
How about you? What's your favorite?
Peppermint bonbon.
Oh, that's good. You know, sometimes you can only get that at Christmas time. I wish they sold that year-round. Have you found it year-round somewhere? Oh, you have. I need to come to your town.
We find it not in our town. We find a lot of it in our town, too. We find it all over the place.
Oh, great.
Nice.
Could you just tell us a little bit about Dorset, your town? Tell us a little bit about it, James.
We shake hands, we do stuff that is nice.
It's nice?
Yeah.
Good.
Play
Y'all love to
sports?
fish? Sports?
Love fishing, right?
All right.
Biggest fish you got?
He caught probably a walleye this big on a lake.
Get out of here.
Yeah, a really big walleye. And he caught the biggest eel pout when it was eel pout festival. And I got an eel pout with the biggest back, and we put it in a tank for the Great Lakes Aquarium in...
Wow.
That's amazing.
Giving back to the town. Open up the aquarium.
James
Good job.
and Robert, the youngest mayors. Thank you so much. You're not even old enough to vote, and you became mayor. Pretty impressive.
I've never seen anyone sit more comfortably on our couch. Good job. Up top. All right. All right, guys. You have a town to run. I guess you have to run, and preschool to attend. All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Kind of just lost their attention. I mean, it's just
They're
like
at a loss for words.
a little like dealing with Tucker. After a while, he just stops talking to us. All right, coming up straight ahead. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. You don't have to get up, but you can if you want. All right, go ahead. Sorry. Trump and Clinton making a major play for African-American voters. But which candidate actually offers a more promising platform? We're going to break down the numbers next.
The policies of Hillary Clinton have produced only poverty, joblessness, failing schools, broken homes, and rising crime. And it's only getting worse. They don't care about you. Remember that.
In just this past week, under the guise of outreach to African Americans, Trump has stood up in front of largely white audiences and described black communities in such insulting and ignorant terms.
Well, the race is heating up, of course. Both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton making a major play for African-American votes. But as the two battle it out on the trail, which candidate offers a more promising platform on the merits? Here to weigh in is National Director of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, the Reverend Derek McCoy. Reverend McCoy, great to see you this morning. So you just
Good to be with you.
Hillary Clinton essentially accused Donald Trump of racism for attempting to appeal to African-American voters. Do you think it is racist to make a pitch to those voters?
Absolutely not. I think it's imperative that they make that pitch. One of the things that's really clear is that we cannot go on like the Nixon Southern strategy of the 1960s, where he just reached out to more white voters and said that's going to get us over the aspect of it. And I think you're going to have to make a big pitch to African-American voters.
So it's a tough pitch to make, though, because in the last election, I think something like 96% of black voters went for the Democrat, President Obama. Trump is now polling in the NBC poll, at least, at about 8%. Is it a question of not being able to hear what he says? It seems to me a lot of black voters just decide the Republican is not on my side, doesn't like me, and I can't even hear the details of what he's saying.
Well, you make a good point. I think what we have to look at, and when I look at this whole thing, Trump has a great opportunity in front of him, as well as Hillary is going to have to make a big play to be able to really include the African-American vote. Here's the deal. The African-American community, while you have a lot of folks that may be strapped in poverty, but they are disproportionately represented in that poverty mix. While being only about 12% of the population, you're looking at us being about a third of the population of the poverty rolls. Right. On the other side of it, though, which I don't think they're quite getting, is that there's $1.1 trillion in African-American net disposable income. It is a population pool of growing people that have managerial, professional jobs, that have college in their background. And so that voting bloc, especially over 25, is going to be critical. And I think they're a little bit more conservative leaning and open to hear. But you have to be able to understand the distinguishments of both sides of that African-American community.
So Obama's election was seen as a great victory for a lot of people, particularly for black voters. Here are the numbers after 8 years. 2009, there were 9.9 million African Americans living in poverty. As of 2014, the number is up to 10.7 million. The overall poverty rate in America is a little over 4%. For black Americans, it's 8.5%. These are not numbers that suggest a victory, really. They're numbers that suggest a failure.
Absolutely, and that's why many in the African-American community, and I think what you're looking at is many people are dissatisfied with the policies that have been put in place for years in several communities that have been run by Democrats. And so if you look in Baltimore City, if you look in Milwaukee, if you look in other places, these places have been run by large majority of Democrats, and I think a lot of African-Americans are becoming discontent with the policies and what has been the strategies to date. They're looking for new solutions. They want to see jobs created. They want to see people come off those welfare rolls. They also want to see economic opportunities in terms of entrepreneurism and other things.
You hope that someone want to try something new, because it's definitely not working.
Absolutely.
Reverend, great to see you this morning. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you.
As we thought. Guess who's here?
Hi. I lost power in New Jersey yesterday.
Why?
I don't know. One drop falls and
the bill comes every month. You have to pay it, Geraldo.
I actually thought of that. Now, wait a second. I have a new accountant. Did that happen?
So did you see the Trump speech on immigration?
I saw the Trump speech. I thought much more movingly, from my point of view, Tucker, was to see him with President Peña Nieto earlier in the day, to see him presidential, to see him measured, to see him really on a par with the world leader. I thought it was terrific for him. I applauded the substance of his remarks, the tenor of his remarks. I thought that in the battle for the soul of Donald Trump between me and Ann Coulter, I thought that I was triumphant, and Ann and the hardcore people that she represents were losers because Trump was going my way. He was softening.
What? That's not what Ann Coulter thinks.
All right, but then flash forward 3 or 4 hours, he gets to Arizona, and he delivered a speech that could have been a speech he made during the primary. It was way too harsh. It was strident, in my view. You know more than anyone, Tucker, how politics is a business of arithmetic. You want to add people. I thought the morning meeting in Mexico added voters.
But wait a second. In the
speech he made, he rejected.
I just ask you one question about it. In the speech, the core of it was this. He said the United States has a right, indeed an obligation, to admit people who improve the lives of Americans. All immigration helps immigrants. That's wonderful. But the president's job is to help Americans. You can't disagree with that.
He could have said that same thing in a much more moderate tone, even if the words were exactly the same.
So it's the
then
tone.
It gets, but it's not only the tone, Ainsley. It is the fact that he, in his own mind, I believe, makes a distinction between criminal illegal aliens and undocumented, otherwise law-abiding, particularly those with citizen children. I know in Donald's mind, Mr. Trump's mind, that he makes a distinction, and yet he didn't say it.
The whole speech. This is what he said. I want to build a wall, and then he said, the bad people, the criminals, let's get them out.
I submit to you the fact that he has had major resignations from conservative Hispanic people who had allied with Donald Trump as a result of the speech in Arizona is absolute evidence of what I'm talking about.
All right,
he
let's
has
hear what
lost Hispanic support that he could have gotten if he had kept the same tone he had in the morning.
Because you think there should be a dissemination between the criminals and people here, and then this is what he did. This is what he said yesterday. This is why I wanted you to hear this.
Oh, there's softening. Look, we do it in a very humane way, and we're going to see with the people that are in the country. Obviously, I want to get the gang members out, the drug peddlers out. I want to get the drug dealers out. We get a lot of people in this country that you can't have, and those people will get out. And then we're going to make a decision at a later date once everything is stabilized. I think you're going to see there's really quite a bit of softening.
That's what he told Laura. Why didn't he have that tone in the speech in Arizona? What was he trying to do? Everybody in that room was voting for Donald Trump anyway. He needs to broaden his support. A Republican is a minority anyway. And to win, you've got to broaden your constituency. You've got to reach out.
I think you're both saying the same thing, though. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying he's not going to separate moms and kids, if I understand this correctly.
But he did, though.
Wait one second. You just said exactly what I have on my mind. Why doesn't Donald Trump add a line? I'm obviously, ladies and gentlemen, not going to separate families from their citizen children. I'm not going to be stupid about the misallocation of federal resources.
He said, if you're here, we can make you citizens, but you will pay back taxes for all the years that you were here, and everyone else paid for it.
What I heard, and I believe that what every person who is pro-immigration reform heard was same old Donald Trump from the primaries. He took the harshest line. Right now, I mean, with Laura Ingraham just now, he sounded like Jeb Bush. He sounded like Marco Rubio.
Aren't you playing into
why doesn't he sound like that when he makes this major
Maybe he will. Maybe he'll hear you.
Look, the criticism of the press, Geraldo, is that they're shallow and they're distracted by the shiny object and they refuse to listen to the substance of politicians' remarks. Aren't you playing into that stereotype by not engaging with what he says and instead critiquing the sound of his voice?
The sound of his voice, if you're shouting and if you're militant in the sound of your voice, your message gets totally overwhelmed, and it's more than that. The fact that he did not distinguish between law-abiding, mothers and fathers who've been in this country for 15 years, 20 years, never committed a crime. They put their kids through Harvard, for goodness sake. I think that you could easily have kept the sentiments of all of those allies in a much more humane, compassionate, inclusive way. And I could have drafted the speech for him. It sounded to me almost like he wrote the speech. Just give me 1 second. I think he wrote the speech, then he went to Mexico, had that great session with Peña Nieto, and came back and used the old speech.
Just so you know, he did change. The report is he changed the beginning of his speech when he saw Nieto's tweet that said, I told Donald Trump he'll never pay for that wall. He changed portion of the speech when he saw that because I think he thought it was a breach of trust because they never really discussed the wall. I want you to talk on something totally different, but I'm sure you have opinions on. San Francisco 49er quarterback Colin Kaepernick started last night in San Diego on a salute to Military Day. When he came out to join his teammates, they booed every time he touched the ball in all 16 plays. He took a knee during the national anthem. Your thoughts?
Managers, he said, remind me that Colin Kaepernick went to the University of Nevada, a great scrambling quarterback, really a all-pro, terrific. He had one good year in the NFL, and then he started screwing up. And now this is the action of a man who's frustrated in his career, who's going nowhere in his career, who's making this stance. What are we going to start having, like, on helmets, Black Lives Matter, or, vote for Trump, or vote for this one?
I don't think that we should be focused on whether he's starting or not. I think that he feels as though the country's letting him down. and he wants to stay. That's why he doesn't want to salute the flag, because it's not representing the America that he knows.
This is football, for God's sakes. This is a guy who gets paid big money to play football, in his case, to sit on the bench.
So where are the owners here? Where's his employer? Why are they too cowardly just to stand up for the national anthem? Is that asking a lot?
I just think that it's really, really bad manners. He'll be booed every time he plays in any stadium throughout the league. It will affect his teammates ultimately. It will affect the franchise. It will bring people down. You going to a football game, it's not a political rally. You don't want to see cops or pigs on people's socks.
No, you want to see a game play.
And just on Armed Forces Day, it's just really, I come back to the manners. It's really, really bad manners.
Wouldn't it be nice to see someone in charge, a billion-dollar owner, like maybe just kind of stand up and be counted for once?
Well, I think that the San Francisco market, the San Francisco fans, will take care of this problem. I guarantee you, Colin Kaepernick, this is his last year with the 49ers.
Geraldo, thank you for waking up early and being with us this morning.
I love it every Friday.
Thanks, Geraldo.
All right, and to see Dee Snyder in the morning.
You got
to come out with us. We're going out in a minute.
He needs a Hispanic background singer, right, just on the end. All right, so don't be surprised to see you on stage. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead, a new batch of Hillary Clinton emails from her time as Secretary of State just released. One in particular could prove controversial. Ed Henry has the breaking details.
Moving up the timetable, we're soon going to know the minute-by-minute details of Hillary Clinton's daily meetings as Secretary of State.
And it's now been 272 days since Clinton has held a full-blown press conference. Now, even the press appears to be getting fed up.
Possibly because they don't have any access. Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry live in Washington. Hey, Ed.
Good morning, guys. One new email out shows Bill Clinton making sure Huma Abedin lines up a meeting for Hillary Clinton with the chief executive of Dow Chemical, a company that gave between $1 and $5 million to the Clinton Foundation. The latest document dumped from conservative Judicial Watch also shows a July 2009 exchange between Doug Band at the Clinton Foundation and Abedin. Top aide, of course, to the Secretary of State. Band got Abedin's help obtaining diplomatic passports for himself and two associates. Clinton aides point out, though, that was tied to Bill Clinton's trip to North Korea. Clinton spokesman Josh Sherwin saying, quote, Judicial Watch is now attacking State Department officials and the 42nd President of the United States for rescuing two American journalists from North Korea. This is a new low even for this right-wing organization that has been going after the Clintons since the 1990s. Well, Tim Kaine claims his running mate has news conferences all the time. Listen to this.
To the press everywhere you go.
That off-camera remark from the anchor at CBS may have said it all. Really? In fact, the vice presidential candidate's claim about Hillary Clinton talking to the press every day is simply not true, even though there's a lot of questions that are building up, guys.
Right, and guess who did it yesterday? He did all these shows yesterday. Where was Hillary Clinton? Nowhere to be found. She's getting small crowds, making few appearances, but raising a ton of money.
I did not see Tim Kaine on Fox and Friends either.
We asked him. We all called. We all made lots of calls.
She called personally. Can you imagine?
And by the way, he's come on before. I don't understand. When he was senator and
He'll
governor.
do it next time.
He might not be making the decisions anymore.
Probably not.
People simply cannot keep turning Kill Meat away. He's a force to be reckoned with.
You know, why does it have to be sarcastic?
No, it's totally true.
Why can't that be true, Ed?
The great Ed Henry. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
So the New York Times, the Washington Post, Politico, all the Hillary shills, they are hysterical about Donald Trump's immigration plan. Former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, is here to weigh in on all of it.
Good morning and welcome back. 24 minutes after the hour, and a quick look at your headlines now. The Romanian hacker known as Guccifer, who targeted the Bush family and exposed Hillary Clinton's private email server, will now spend 4 years behind bars. Marcel Lazar leaked emails from a Clinton advisor, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, and Dorothy Bush Koch, the sister of President George W. Bush. Back here at home, they survived the Aurora movie theater massacre, and now they have to pay $700,000 to the theater where they almost lost their lives. A judge ordering 4 victims to cover Cinemark's legal fees after losing a lawsuit over security flaws. Those are your headlines. Brian and Ainsley, over to you.
Here is your shot of the morning. These pint-sized former mayors from Minnesota took over the studio.
Yep, Robert and James Tuft, 7 and 4, served as their town leaders at the age of 3. So they're veterans now.
Man, you grilled them. It was like a Hillary press conference. They had some valuable political advice for all of us, though. Watch.
Now, what is your advice? Give us some political advice.
Well, look people in the eye, shake hands, and no poopy talk.
Right. That's a good one. No poopy talk. Have you learned that from your brother as mayor? No poopy talk?
Newt Gingrich was jotting down notes because he's always looking to learn. Joining us now is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Newt, is that good, solid advice this morning?
That may have been the most mature statement we've gotten out of a candidate this year.
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great.
It's good to see you again. How would you rate this week for Donald Trump with one of the biggest days, that Saturday, at an African-American church in Detroit, still straight ahead?
Well, look, I think he's showing that he is daring, he's aggressive, he's going to be Donald Trump, and people have to decide whether or not that's the future they want for the country. He was very successful, I think, in immediately taking up the President of Mexico's offer, going down there, doing an event where he looked very presidential. His speech has sort of, that night, was pure Trumpism, but it clearly drove the elite media crazy. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Detroit. I mean, I think what he has decided is that he is going to be very blunt, very direct, and people have to decide whether that's a future they want. I think he's gambling. He has thoughtfully decided to gamble on people being sick of corruption and sick of dishonesty and sick of poopy talk, if you will.
Right.
And I think that he's trying to give you something much more genuine and much more authentic.
So you just described the press as the elite media. I thought the purpose of the media were to afflict the comfortable. When did they swing in lockstep with the hedge fund managers and the politicians? When did they take the side of the people they're supposed to be covering skeptically? When did that happen?
Well, I think Charlie Murray's book, Coming Apart, tells the story brilliantly. We've moved into a class system where the people who go to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton marry the people who go to Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. Most of the elite media is part of that. They have no real relationship anymore with about 70 to 80% of the country.
Yes.
How can you go through a cycle where there are over 3,600 dead in Chicago, more killed last month in Chicago, more Americans killed in Chicago last month than any time in the last 20 years, and the elite media is just utterly, totally indifferent to it. It has no notion that this involves real human beings because they don't go to their cocktail parties, they don't go to their prep schools, they're not part of their world, they don't vacation where the elite media does. And so you have this enormous growing gap, which, by the way, will be the biggest single challenge in the debate. I mean, Trump's got to debate both Hillary and the moderators simultaneously.
What she just said is the truest thing I've heard today. I live in that world, and you're exactly right. That's exactly what's happening.
Now, Newt, if you read Politico this morning, it says that Bill Clinton aides used taxpayer money to buy IT equipment, including servers, for the Clinton Foundation.
Actually, I prefer the line where they use taxpayer money to get rid of bed bugs. Look, nice. One of the things, Cliff and I just had 2 weeks where we frankly got away, thought about it, looked back from a distance. And one of the things that really struck me that makes this so hard is Bill and Hillary are the only way to describe them is they're grifters. These are people that show up in movies who lie to everybody, steal from everybody. And if you think of them as grifters, you sort of get it. Here was a pot of money. Why not take it? Oh, it happens to be illegal. Well, nobody will notice. If they do notice, that's why we have lawyers. We'll simply lie about it. So here you have day after day after day. In a normal, healthy society, they would both be ostracized for being such totally unpatriotic scammers who go around using public trust and using public money and then lying about it pathetically. And instead, we all just get numb to it. It's an astonishing thing to live through.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable, too, because while she's doing this, it's hire Sidney Blumenthal, even though I was told not to. Don't commingle the foundation with your State Department. Well, I'm doing it anyway, even though I was told not to. And then put some of my sycophants at the foundation, and now we have the interchange and interlocking in communication between staffs at both the State Department as well as the foundation. And you know, in the real world, who would be ticked off? The person that hired him, Barack Obama. That's not what he hired her to do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but look what we just learned in the last 2 days about Barack Obama and the Iranian deal, where it turns out there was a secret agreement to allow the Iranians to do whatever they wanted to. Well, nobody would tell you about it unless the Iranians agreed to tell you about it. I mean, Obama has lied for his entire presidency about everything from Obamacare to the Iranian deal. Why would he notice Bill and Hillary lying? You cannot be a modern liberal and tell the truth, as you just saw a few minutes ago in the vice presidential nominee, who can't even tell the truth about Hillary's failure to hold press conferences. I mean, they have a belief that if they look in the camera, they seem sincere, and they lie consistently, that the lies will eventually seem true.
So tomorrow, Trump is going to Detroit. He's going to talk in a black church. Most people don't think he has any shot of winning over 8%, 10% of the African-American vote. Do you think that's true? And why is he doing this?
Well, look, first of all, let me go back to Chicago, which is a devastating example. Over 3,600 Americans have been killed in Chicago, and liberals whose policies have led to this have done nothing. Detroit, the city collapsed. Large parts of the city are uninhabited. The school system is a disaster. People have no jobs. They have no hope. They have no future. All of this under Democrats. To have a Republican, and this is where I have to say I admire Trump. I have the places he and I disagree deeply. But I admire him having the courage, first of all, to remind people about Lincoln. Second, to remind people that all those segregationist senators were Democrats. All those segregationist sheriffs were Democrats. The fact is the Democrats have totally mismanaged our biggest cities. You look at Baltimore, you look at Detroit, you look now at the south side of Chicago, you look at Milwaukee, the sixth poorest city in America. And for Trump to have the courage to go into those environments, he's going to be attacked, he's going to get beaten up. But I think if he is prepared to endure it, that by October you might see him in the 20–25% range in the black community, and it is impossible for a Democrat to win if they're driven below 80% of the black vote.
That's for sure. He'll win big if he gets that number. Thanks a lot, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
All right, Newt Gingrich, real core average is about 5% separating them, where Donald Trump's numbers holding, Hillary's dropping. The question is, where are those votes going?
All right, let's hand it over to Heather, who has some headlines for us this morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to all of you. A tip to police officers stopping what could have been a horrific terror attack. Police in Illinois saying that 18-year-old Keon Cook was planning to blow up 2 venues to kill thousands of innocent people who were packed inside. Authorities there would not release the names of those target locations, but they say that he was talking to a terror organization and was capable of carrying out a mass casualty attack. He is now behind bars. NBA star Dwayne Wade now responding to Donald Trump's tweet about the shooting death of his cousin in Chicago. Trump's tweet, if you recall, read this way, quote, Dwayne Wade's cousin was just shot and killed walking her baby in Chicago. Just what I've been saying, African Americans will vote for Trump. Well, Wade now says that tweet left him feeling, quote, conflicted.